Thank you guys for tuning in to impromptu episode of the Sit Down Malik Wright. Anytime the Bengals have breaking news or news that I think that you guys would want to hear and hear us discuss, we have to come to you guys live and discuss it. Ian Rappaport has reported what has been, I feel like, largely known here in Cincinnati. At least I knew. I'm sure a lot of people, Bengals fans knew. I'm sure a lot of people knew the Bengals' intentions were to franchise tag star receiver T. Higgins. And now that has come to light. Apparently, the Cincinnati Bengals have informed T. Higgins that they plan to franchise tag him. And we're going to break that down. We're going to talk about what that means. But before we do, make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the First Star Logistics Studio or our in-home makeshift studio. With that being said, Daniel, Bengals franchise tag T. Higgins.
Yeah.
Big move, a part of the championship puzzle. They are still negotiating with him. They do plan to still try and sign him long-term. Whether that is something that the masses agree with or not, it's something that Cincinnati feels strongly about. But, Daniel, what say you? What are your thoughts?
So there's obviously twofold to this. First thing is championship is everything. And that's what I feel like a lot of, people get caught up in, right? You want to look at long-term success. I understand that, but let's talk about a championship. Let's talk about winning one, right? And when you talk about winning one, let's talk about this season. And this move puts you in the best possible position to do that, right? What were your other options? To let him walk this year? Okay, if you let him walk this year, then you rely on, maybe you go out and get a guy in free agency, maybe you draft a guy in the first round. So many different variables other than sticking with what's been working. And T. Higgins is what's been working. T. Higgins is a guy that you don't have to change much. So that's how I look at it. First off is you have a good compliment to Jamar Chase, right? T. Higgins, when he's on, when he's healthy, we've talked about this, one of the best 50-50 ball receivers in the NFL. And you just get consistency. So that's what I look at with this. You get consistency. You don't have to rely on somebody else. And you have two of the top 20 wide receivers in the NFL on the roster this season. And that's just what I look at, right? When you look at the long-term implications, we'll see if they come to, an agreement for a deal. We'll see if they're able to reach an agreement for $25 million for 4 years. But how I'm looking at this as a 1-year rental. I'm looking at this as, hey, you're putting all your chips in the table for this season and figure out the money after. So $21 million is not bad for this year. And just how, you have to project how they're going to play out this year. Higgins is hopefully going to be healthy, right? This year, he was completely banged up. We know the ribs. We know he had a shoulder. We know he had some other injuries this year. He wasn't at his best, and his numbers showed. And, throughout his entire NFL career, he hasn't put up an entirely healthy season. And hopefully we can get that this year. But that's what my hopes are for sure for this year is looking at T. Higgins. You're getting a guy who's potentially a number one wide receiver on a lot of other NFL teams. So I look at T. Higgins this year as this is the best case scenario for you to go out and win a Super Bowl, right? This checks off one of the big boxes that we were talking about is when you look at your receiver position, you got slot receiver to fill up, but we're looking at it now. It's not as big of a need as it was before. You got Jamar Chase, you got T. Higgins. Now let's go figure out the tight end position. Let's figure out your right tackle position, and pretty much you're golden. You got the quarterback, number 9. Hopefully he's going to be healthy for the season. And man, I'm just excited. I'm just happy because already before free agency, we don't even have to worry about it. Don't even have to talk about it. Don't even have to discuss, are they going to trade T. Higgins? That's down the road. We'll see, hopefully he shows up to camp and hopefully he doesn't hold out because I know a lot of players have held out on the franchise tag. So that's going to be a wait and see thing. But $21 million for this year. We saw they had 70-something million in cap before this. I'm happy. I'm in a good place because this puts you in the best possible position right now to win a Super Bowl in New Orleans this year.
So I'm happy that we're having this discussion. We're going to, just so you guys know, we're going to talk about the pros. We're going to talk about the cons. And then in only Malik fashion, I'm going to break down what this means and what this signifies to me. I'll preface this by saying this. Not everything I say you guys are going to agree with. Not everything I say you guys will like. But, one thing about me, I'm going to try and give you facts and give it to you straight. And I'm really curious to hear what you guys' opinions are. So Bengals fans, do me a favor if we can. Comment down below. I want your initial reaction. Again, the thing about the sit down, think about First Star, just think about what we do here is we want to include you guys in the conversation. We truly view this as an interactive type of deal. So I do want your reactions to this. Give me the good, the bad, the ugly, and we'll go down the list and we'll talk about these things. So here's what it's going to be. To me, this move signifies the Bengals are all in for a championship. People may not like hearing that. People may not like saying, hey, Bengals championship. You know, the Bengals haven't won a championship. That's what you'll get from other fan bases, yada, yada, yada. But to me, that's what this signifies. Everything that Duke Tobin said from last year, you know, we're not in the business to make other franchises rich, right? We're in the, you know, if you want your own receiver, you get your own. I think that was me that asked that question. It was either you or me that asked him that question. I forgot which one of the combine, but he said that. And he stuck true to that. Obviously, we want a long-term deal done for T, but here's the one issue with that, guys. Here's the one issue with that. And I've talked about it briefly on State of the Jungle on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Dave Mulgeta, Athletes First, they truly want the best for their players. They represent the best, so therefore they try and get the best type of deal for their players. Now, the one issue when it comes to T. Higgins is T. Higgins hasn't played, number one, a healthy season fully, and he hasn't put up the greatest numbers that may, you know, average out to $30 million a year or whatever said money, you know, might be. So it makes things a little bit hairy. And honestly speaking, this isn't the best benefit of T. Higgins while they also try and negotiate a deal. But maybe if they don't get a deal done, hey, at the very least, I'm making $21.8 million this year. I could prove myself. I could prove that I can stay healthy. I could prove that I could be an elite receiver, and then I cash in big. Now, the Bengals obviously don't want that. But here's the one caveat. The guys, you don't want T. Higgins playing on the franchise tag. You don't. The hope is the franchise tag is just there in place to negotiate a long-term deal. Because, guys, we're past the point of moving on, doing something different because you want to use that money to allocate it for other resources. To me, what this signifies is, number one, I believe the Bengals are going to be active in free agency to some degree. I believe they didn't want to have this sitting out there, flirting out there going into free agency because you want to know where 21.8 or let's just call it 22 million of that money is going to be allocated to going into the season. Now you could already say, at the very least, if we don't sign T. Higgins, 22 million is already put away. So we know what we could sign. We know who we could go after. But it also gives you an opportunity to negotiate longer. It's like a hold in place because, you know, T. Higgins is not touching free agency, right?
Yep.
And you'll have that opportunity to try to work something out. But the hope is he never plays on the franchise tag. This is just the franchise tag is just posturing to basically essentially give you an extension window to negotiate. But if things don't come together, at least we have that in our back pocket. He plays on that. But to me, this signifies the Bengals want to win.
Yeah.
The hope is, hey, let's negotiate a deal with T. Higgins. Let's see if we can come to an agreement with T. Higgins. He never plays on that franchise tag. All's good and well in Bengal Dome. That's the mentality, and that's what the mentality should be. If that happens, we don't know. But I know that is what the Bengals' intentions are, and they are telling us that's what their intentions are. Furthermore, this means, to me, they're in on a championship. Not to say that they never weren't, right? But they're 100% in on a championship. They believe that this team, this core, they could win with. That's what I see. That's what I see. I see it as a positive. I you know, you don't want to get too wrapped up in the number necessarily because we don't know what might happen. We don't know what might happen, right? The simple fact is I'm excited for I'm happy for T. Higgins because he's such a great guy.
Yep.
He's such a great guy, humble guy, right? You know, at the very least, you do want to see these guys get paid, especially when they work their entire lives to get to this point. But at the same time, for the Bengals, this is such a pivotal offseason, right? Because every single move that you make has to prepare for your future. Obviously, they see T. Higgins a part of the foreseeable future, which is why they made this move. You don't make this move unless you are preparing for him to be a part of that foreseeable future. Now, you have to ask yourself now that the Bengals have franchised T. Higgins, where does the rest of that money go? For me, I think you can fill some holes. And we've kind of talked about those holes. And we'll dive much deeper into them as this show progresses right here. but I do want to hear from what some Bengals fans' initial reaction is. So, guys, do me a favor. Comment down in the comment section. Let me know the good, the bad, the ugly, whether you're happy, whether you're sad, whether you're mad, whether you're throwing shit at your television. I want to hear from you guys right now because this is a show for the people. So, Daniel, take it away.
Yeah, I think, I just want to get some of these. We had our guy Sample. He said, I think this is more status quo than being all in. I kind of disagree. And the reason why I disagree is like this was expected, but the fact of the matter is you are going all in wouldn't be, in my opinion, would be letting T. Higgins walk, right? That would be the status quo. That would be, hey, going a different route. Going all in is having the best 22 guys on the field, offense and defense. And T. Higgins deserves to be one of those guys. So the fact that they did this definitely shows that they are going to be all in. And to your credit, it definitely shows that they are looking to have a deal, and it definitely prolongs them until July to get a deal done. So that's for the foreseeable future, and that's for the looking 2-3 years down the road. But right now, T. Higgins is on the roster, and just looking back, I mean, the Bengals franchise tag Jesse Bates. The Bengals franchise tag AJ Green. And then before that, I believe it was their kicker. I don't see them trading T. Higgins. And I know there's going to be a lot of talk, about the tag and trade. I just don't know from what I've seen out of the Cincinnati Bengals with the few trades that they've made. I don't see that they're going to go out and trade T. Higgins. I just don't think that's the way they do business. And I was just looking at, because some people are bringing up the tag and trade. I just don't think that's a realistic option because,
we know the Bengals overvalue their players. They're never going to see them at the value. Somebody had talked about briefly, hey, what can the Bengals command for T. Higgins? Genuinely speaking, if the Bengals were that kind of franchise that was willing to wheel and deal and be realistic, I genuinely think you could probably command a late first round pick for T. Higgins. I believe you could. At the very least, you could command a second and a third. But no, I agree with you, Daniel. I think that a lot of it is posturing to some degree, but I also think that they definitely wanted to nip that in the bud. But I think the biggest thing that I love about this entire thing about franchise tagging T. Higgins, I certainly don't love the number, but what I do love is I love the fact that all those teams that were out there, like the Kansas City Chiefs and so on and so forth, that were praying, that were literally like vultures praying, saying T. Higgins, doing all those weird jersey swaps of T. Higgins and other teams' jerseys. This now signifies to them, hey, back off. He's a Bengal, at least for this upcoming year. So all those fantasies that you guys have about potentially signing him, you can kind of throw that away because it ain't happening. So for me, I think that kind of just puts that to rest. And to be honest with you, unless you are a franchise tag or have a deal in place, it does create doubt, right? You do start to wonder as an athlete or as a player, am I wanted? What is my future like? You start to wonder, are you a part of the team's plan? So the fact that the free agency window just opened up and, I would say they're probably about a week and some change away from even meeting the deadline.
Yeah.
The fact that they made their intentions known that, hey, we can't get a deal done with you. You are being franchise tagged, just letting you know. I don't expect T. Higgins to sign the franchise tag right away. Obviously, you want to try and get a deal done, but this does create that negotiation process and negotiation window.
Yeah, going back a little bit, Horty Harry said, glad 5 got the bag. 22 million guaranteed is life-changing. Houday. Definitely is life-changing, but
not security.
My concern, right? And this is just going off of what I saw with Jesse Bates. We haven't seen a full healthy year of T. Higgins, right? This past year was a very up and down year. Previous years have been very up and down years, not consistent. That is going to be my concern, right? If T. Higgins does play on the franchise tag, he's going to know that he's not secured. He's going to know that he doesn't have a full 4-year, $100 million deal in the back pocket. So that would be my concern, right? If he does play on the franchise tag. And this is something where we're not going to be able to tell, right? It's going to be a very nitpicky situation of, okay, is he really trying? Of course, T. Higgins is a stand-up guy. Of course, he's going to try. But at the same time, who's going to be in his ear the entire time is agent Dave Mulgeta. And we saw what happened with Jesse Bates. The year after he got his big deal with the Falcons, he absolutely balled out with the Falcons. So that would be my number one concern for, looking at what Horty Harry said. Definitely guaranteed money is life-changing, but it's not full security, so that remains to be seen. Joe Nurse said, is Tyler Boyd for sure gone? He does, yeah.
If you want to say.
Yeah, he doesn't have a deal in place with the Cincinnati Bengals, and I find it very hard to believe that
So
they'll
I'll say this:
pay Tyler Boyd.
I'll never say a deal is. I'll never say somebody's officially gone ever again, ever again.
Yeah.
Just to give people context of why I will never say that again is because everybody, right down to coaches that I spoke to, did not expect Jermaine Pratt to be a Bengal going forward. They all thought he was going to hit free agency. He was going to cash in. Then what do you know? The linebacker market was trash, right? Players, you genuinely don't know what things might shake out until you hit the open market, because you might think your value is one thing, you get on open market and teams are not offering you anything. Then you're like, oh, hell, there's so much that goes into it, right? So if a team is offering you, let's say your team that you're currently with is offering you $5 million a year to stay with your current team. Let's just play hypotheticals for a second. And then let's say, for instance, that team's state tax is a lot lower, right? Percentage wise. Or you can go to a team that has no state tax. And let's say you're being offered $2.5 million to play there. Well, at the end, it might shake out the exact same, right? If the team with no state tax is offering you $2.5 million but your regular team is offering you $5 million. But then you have to ask yourself, would it be enough to move cross country to find a place to have the type of lifestyle that I want to? These are all the things that go into players' minds as free agency hits, at least from the players that I've spoken to. You've never hit free agency before, so there's a lot that goes into it. I say all that to say, I give a long-winded response to say, we don't know what Tyler Boyd's market is going to be. We are all expecting Tyler Boyd to have played his last down in Cincinnati. He's obviously not the same player that he once was, right, Daniel? He's not the same player that he once was. He's not the same. He's not the same receiver necessarily, but you don't know what the market might shake out to be. He might have no offer on the table. I have a hard time believing Tyler Boyd, who has been a capable receiver for most of his career, will have no offers on the table, but I will never say a player is for sure gone.
And when you just got to look at how the Bengals offense is operated. And we've said this time and time again, with Joe Burrow on the field, you don't need superstar. Like, it helps to have a Jamar Chase, helps to have a T. Higgins, but we've seen guys like a Charlie Jones. We've seen guys, like a Trent Irwin have serious success with the Bengals. And that's why it's not too concerning to talk about Tyler Boyd not being on the team. Also, add in the fact Jamar Chase was discussing that he wants to play more in the slot, wants more responsibility, wants more control from the slot. So would you rather pay $10 million, $8 million for Tyler Boyd, or go after rookie and have Charlie Jones and you guys develop? I know what I would do. And just to add on to one point that you were talking about, about looking at the player and seeing what's their actual motives to signing somewhere, right? That's something where you look at coaches, you look at, they actually, like, it's a lot of it is personal. And that's why you saw the whole T. Higgins news blow up about, T. Higgins, potentially going to the Titans because that's his home. That matters. Look at Tyreek Hill, moved home to Florida where he wanted to be in Miami. So I challenge you guys, when you guys are looking at these free agents, when you're looking at potential trades, try to take the player's mindset into account.
And for our younger fans as well that are out there, who are younger fans of the NFL, who are younger fans of the Bengals, I would say Madden, I hate to bring this up, but Madden does a really, I would say they've done a better job of trying to make franchise mode as realistic as possible. So when you see those little franchise tags and when it's like, hey, what's the player's motivation? Maybe it's money. Maybe it's being closer to home. Maybe it's, playing time, whatever the case may be. I think that does I think that is kind of true in some aspects, because all that stuff does 100% play a role in a player's interest in wanting to play. It's the reason why Tom Brady, for years, as great as he was and as awesome as he was, he could have stayed in New England for years, but he wanted to play for the Niners at one point in time. He did, because that was his childhood team that he grew up rooting for, and he's from that area. So all that plays a factor. I'll say that. So
yeah, and I think that's something that doesn't really get talked about a lot, and it's come up more and more with players and coaches and stuff. So we got Sam Patterson said, why is most of Cincinnati media immediately painting this as the franchise tag news, that it means there's no chance a long-term deal gets done? I haven't seen what people have said, but I don't think that him being franchise tag means it's completely off the table.
No, not at all. And again, I wouldn't read too much into all that. I think that a lot of people that cover the team, and they do a good job. I think sometimes they kind of just go off of the team's MO and what the team has done. And, things are subject to change, of course. Things are extremely subject to change on a regular basis. So you can't fault them as well because they do cover the team from a 9 to 5 perspective and they're inside of Paycor Stadium. They have access to Paycor Stadium. Doesn't necessarily mean they always have access to news or information, but they are inside the building. They do talk to they do talk to coaches. They do have access to players when permittable. But yeah, I think that's why you might see a certain tone or a certain quote unquote narrative that people may think they're trying to spin. I don't think that they're intentionally trying to spin. I just think they're trying to read the tea leaves a lot like other people might be trying to.
Yeah, we got a question from Nick Fott. He said, "This is great. Now the numbers, 40 million. Let's fill the holes. Veteran defensive line, veteran O line, defensive backs." I agree that this is the best case scenario in the sense that you have all offseason to work now. You don't have to worry about, okay, are you going to re-sign T Higgins? So you have the entire offseason ahead of you now. You've got a lot of holes to fill. You've got a lot of money to play with. Jamar Chase still needs his contract. So definitely a good thing that they got ahead of this.
Yeah.
Anthony Wilson said, "I'm really disappointed as somebody who thinks Burrow has the ability to make those around him better. I anticipated this being the year that Burrow played behind the best offensive line in his career." I don't know if he was talking about last year or this year, but what I'll say about the Bengals offensive line is I think the Bengals offensive line's actually in a good spot. It's in a much better spot than it was.
I agree. You have to solve right tackle, of course, but
yeah. And that's where you've got 40 million to see, hey, is it offensive line? Is it right tackle? Is it Jonah Williams? So what would you have to say about the offensive line?
I think you got to fill the right tackle spot. And I think if there's an opportunity to upgrade at guard, you can. I would say don't be negligent in the draft. Like if there's an obvious upgrade, you take it. You take best player available. Don't say, oh, because we have Cordell Volson and we have this guy, we can't draft him because we don't want to mess with Cordell Volson's process. If the guy is truly one of your highest graded offensive linemen, interior offensive lineman, you make the move and draft it. But again, those are a lot smarter people than me inside that building when it comes to offensive line, I'd hope. So I don't think they need me to tell them how to do their job.
Yeah, we got a question from Travis Schwaller. He said, if you did trade T. Higgins, would the Bengals trade him to a team he'd want to play on, like the Titans or Jaguars, or would they trade him to the highest bidder?
Hear me out. I do not foresee the Bengals trading T. Higgins. I do not. But I will play that game. I will play that game because I said I will deal more in the hypotheticals, I promise. But let me just be very clear. I don't ever see that happening. They didn't trade AJ Green when they got offered a pick for him. I don't see them trading a receiver that's in his prime unless they're fleecing you. So that being said, yeah, I mean, sure. I don't think they'll necessarily work with what the player wants. I think they'll work with whoever the highest bidder were if they were to trade. Remember, this is the same team that were okay with Carson Palmer retiring and sitting on retirement until they got the type of offer that they wanted for him, which was a fleecing of the Raiders.
Yeah. We got a question from Justin Varney. He said, hard to think this isn't Mulgeta leaking this info because both sides are so far apart on money. Long-term deal is not getting done. Time to trade T. Higgins if you can get a second round or better. I don't know if this is necessarily, would you say that this is him leaking information? I mean, he is very good at his job, so I wouldn't put it past them.
I don't think that, man, it could be. I don't know. It could be. I have no idea. All that matters is it got out, right?
Yep.
And I know Ian pretty well, and I know he wouldn't report that unless it was obviously good information. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that. I think there is definitely truth to this. But again, that doesn't mean necessarily a long-term deal won't get done.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying. I'd much rather a long-term deal did get done than him play on the franchise tag, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you. Just because it leaves out the uncertainty of, okay, is he gonna like fully be secure in his contract? Is he fully gonna be secure this season? I'm with you. Anthony Wilson said, sorry, I'm saying that I wanted the money for T to go to the offensive line, thus the disappointment. Yeah, and we discussed this on previous shows. The hard part about this is like you're not playing, first off, you're not playing Madden. So it's like you got to have, I think T. Higgins being on the roster this year is a very good thing for the Cincinnati Bengals. And if you don't have him on your roster, obviously it's 20 million. And obviously you can do a lot with that, like getting an edge rusher. But this leaves less holes for possible uncertainty on the roster. So, yeah, I think T. Higgins definitely, it's a good thing. David Wayne Scott said, not unexpected just a question of how it plays out 1000%. We're not
100%.
gonna know for sure until Timothy Frith said, should the Giants place the franchise tag on Saquon Barkley and then sign him to a 4-year deal? If you were the Giants, would you franchise tag Saquon?
I wouldn't franchise tag a running back. I just wouldn't. Especially because I don't think the Giants are a running back away from actually competing. So can the Giants use those resources to do something different? I'm sure they can. And I don't foresee Saquon Barkley being a Giant much longer.
Yeah, it's just not in the franchise's best interest. We got a question from Ben Amherst. He said, do the Bengals have any leverage at all with this T. Higgins deal, do you think?
I mean, they for sure they have leverage. I mean, I feel like the leverage that they have is you get a premier receiver, at the very least, and a premier wide receiver too, right? In the National Football League, you know that he's here, and you have a longer window to try to negotiate a long-term deal. Now, if they were dealing in the reality of being a franchise that were willing to wheel and deal, all right, they could put feelers out there and trade it out there for teams that are trying to compete that would be willing to give up a first-round pick or other draft assets for a guy like T. Higgins, right? That's the leverage that they have, right? That they control T. Higgins' destiny for this year. And yeah, I feel like that's the leverage they have. And honestly, at the end of the day, I don't think T. Higgins is. I can't speak for him. I'm not in his inner circle at all. I've met the guy a couple of times. He was awesome. He was great, humble, love him. I would just say that I think that he doesn't strike me as a guy that would hold out necessarily. He loves the game of football too much.
Yeah, and that's where when you look at
when I say hold out, I mean not like he doesn't strike me as a guy that would miss games.
Yep,
that makes sense.
And we got a question from Nick. He said, Mulgeta is great at his job. However, he works for T. I believe T wants to be here more than Bates did. I think this helps get the deal done. It definitely can. And this is where it is a lot of the guessing game, right? Because when you look at it from Higgins' perspective, okay, does he stay with the Cincinnati Bengals and has a great chance to reach a Super Bowl, has a consistent quarterback, has a great wide receiver next to him? Or does he go to a team like the Titans that doesn't have, their future isn't set? And that's the part where you're debating between $6-7 million a year of a difference. And that's up to T. Higgins. We don't know. We don't know if that's what he wants or not. And that's what we're going to find out, right? We're going to find that out shortly. And we saw that with Jesse Bates with what happened. And we'll figure out what his priority is. And we can't bash him for whatever his choice is, right? If he wants more money.
A lot of it could come down to structure, obviously. And we know the guarantees that beyond year one, Bengals don't like to do. It could be all sorts of things. You just never know, right? So whatever it shakes out being, whether that's him playing on the franchise tag or something different. Well, it's going to be curious. It's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out, though.
Yeah, we got a question from IH Prawn. He said, I'm good with the tag. Let's see if we can get a wide receiver in round one like we did with Dax for Jesse Bates, and let's make this run. This season this last season shows we could have made a run with healthy Burrow. Definitely could have made a run. It's best play available. And if a top wide receiver like a Rome Odunze falls to you, then you have that conversation. But best play available, but I would not go wide receiver.
Let me say this. This is a very deep wide receiver class. Best player available in the draft should not be a wide receiver in round one unless Marvin Harrison Jr. somehow falls to you.
Yeah.
There's too many other positions. This defensive line needs a jolt. This defensive line needs help. The offensive line could always use new additions. To me, there's going to be too many other players, there for the Bengals to have a pick at and picking a wide receiver, especially when you have T. Higgins under contract for at least, not contract, but you have him with the franchise tag in place in Cincinnati for at least another year. And at the very least, again, you still have other rounds where it is a deep wide receiver class. You will have your pick of a guy like Jermaine Burton, who I kind of talked about in depth a little bit on State of the Jungle this past Wednesday.
Yeah, and we'll see how the draft shakes out. We had a question from Jajuan Sylvan. He said, I have to ask you guys, but do you guys think Jerzon Newton will fall to the Bengals?
I'll say this. I think that the Underwear Olympics, the NFL Combine, is going to push a lot of people's draft stock up. We can answer that question after the Combine because Kalijah Cansey did great things to help his draft stock.
Mhm.
So it doesn't matter how great your tape is. If teams still are like, we don't know you because you play at a smaller school or whatever the case may be, or we're not paying enough attention to you because you don't have enough media hype, well, guess what? That's where the NFL Combine truly helps. I do think Jerzon Newton could fall to the Bengals at that spot because I just don't think you're picking at the end of the first round. So you're not praying and hoping that a guy like that falls. So I think 18 could be around his range. I think the late teens is right around a range for a guy like Jerzon Newton, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you. And once again, if you guys are watching this, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe. And also just stay tuned. We've got a lot of NFL Combine content
And
coming.
Landon Van Steen says Newton isn't going to the Combine. Okay, well, his pro day. I mean, it all kind of all shakes out the same way. Your pro day, your Combine, all that kind of stuff can truly help raise your draft stock. I would say the Combine helps a little bit more because you get all the scouts, GMs in one place and you get praise. I didn't know Newton wasn't going to the Combine. I'm going there myself. But I don't think that, again, I think this is a guy that at his pro day, it could help his stock. I think your interviews with teams can help your stock. So, I mean, at the very least, no matter how greatly he tests at his pro day, I still think I'd be shocked if Jerzon Newton was picked in the top 10.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think he goes top 10. And for our sake, I mean, I've seen what I've seen on tape, and they've obviously got to go through their evaluation. But for our sake, I hope he falls a little bit. We got a question from Shino Bimonti. He said, "Do you think the Bengals should sign a real tight end that is at least 6'5" to give Burrow that mismatch that the Bengals need in some situations?"
I think the Bengals should sign Noah Fant.
Yeah, they should not leave free agency without a tight end, and not a bottom tier tight end. You have very good options on the market this year. You should not leave free agency without a tight end.
Mm-hmm.
We got some questions. Our guy Michael Ruffin said, "Who Dey boys, is it crazy to think that the Bengals go edge rusher back-to-back first-round picks?" I mean, we'll see. Once again, we're going to be at the Combine this week. We're going to have a lot of content. We'll figure out, see what are the guys we like, what are the guys the Bengals like. We'll figure all that out. We have Daniel Jensen said, "Do you think that Joe Burrow is applying pressure in the building to get more guarantees for Higgins' extension?"
No, I don't think he involves himself in negotiations like that when it comes to other players and stuff. No.
Yeah, no, everything that you've seen from Joe Burrow's personality, everything we've seen, I find it very difficult to believe. I'm with you. I don't think that he'd be in there banging on Duke Tobin's desk and say, "Hey, you got to do this, you got to do that." Joe Burrow's type of guy. He's going to do his job and let the rest play out. Akil the Great said, "Oh, are we on board for Mims at 18 if he's there? Will he be number one on your board?"
No.
Yeah. There's two offensive tackles that I absolutely love, and it seems like they're both going to go top 10. Mims is more of a project. Didn't start more than 10 games in college. So we'll see. We got some people talking about Jackson Powers-Johnson.
Beast.
I love him.
Beast. And I think if you want him, you have to pick him in round 1 for the Bengals' sake.
Mm-hmm. And is there any of you guys have any more questions about T. Higgins? We've already discussed, T. Higgins' potential trade. We've already discussed his contract and everything. If you have any more T. Higgins questions, make sure you guys drop them down below. Travis Schwaller said, "If they would accept, would you trade T for Buckner? Both are on 1-year deals,
No.
and I think they're both at the same level salary."
No. I'd want somebody younger. I'd want someone who, somebody younger and obviously cheaper.
Yeah.
Because I think the only way to make that move is if you have a long-term deal in place, right? I mean, obviously, I just don't know if signing a long, DeForest Buckner is an absolute monster and has been a menace for so long, but you only make that move if you have a long-term deal potentially in place for the guy. And he's also, you feel good about the future, and he's an older guy at this point. So.
Yeah, and once again, when we're discussing trades for T. Higgins, like our guy Ben saying T for Brandon Ayuk, that's a lateral move. Like the whole reason you would trade T. Higgins.
It's a good question too, by the way. Because I don't want him to think we were just like crapping on him. No, it's good. We love these questions, guys. Give us all the hypotheticals you want. I've got nothing to do on Friday night right here. Honestly speaking, I'm not going out doing anything. So, I wanted to jump on here and talk with you guys, and I appreciate the passion that you guys show me, that show the First Star family. And yeah.
No, completely. Yeah, I just think it's a lateral move. I think if you're trading T. Higgins, you're trading him to free up the money. You're trading him to get the cap space for other positions. And Brandon Ayuk's coming up on a contract. And even when I look at it too, I think T. Higgins complements Jamar Chase well. If you look at a guy like Brandon Ayuk, his play style is it's similar to a Jamar Chase-esque. He can play in the slot, he can play outside, he can do all three, short, intermediate, and deep routes. I think T. Higgins really complements Jamar Chase well. And when they're on the field together with Joe Burrow healthy, they're a force. And that's what like a lot of people are forgetting. Like when they're all healthy, all three of them, that's what the goal is. If you can get those three guys healthy for the playoffs this year, like they're going to be a force. So Brandon Ayuk, I like him as a player. He's also going to get a bag too. He's going to get 20 something.
I mean, if his girlfriend and his brother can just shut the hell up and let it work out, they always got something to say. I mean, I understand his girl is like, obviously she's a child with them, and obviously every move impacts, but like sometimes like the best negotiation is just do it behind closed doors and not open your mouth. Like if you're unhappy, just approach the person or the person that you have a business relationship with, and you talk about things and you see if you can work something out. You don't, mouth off and try to be disgruntled and handle it that way. That helps nobody, and it certainly doesn't help you. So sorry for that little rant about Brandon Ayuk, but I think he's a good guy, and I just think that he has people around him who are probably looking at, their eyes are wide, looking at money as well.
Yeah. We got Landon Van Steen. Good question. He said, you guys think we go after Tommy Townsend after this offseason to reunite him with Money Mac?
I don't know. I really hope the Bengals figure out their punting situation. My grand hope is Brad Robbins just gets superpowers and he just is able to just be consistent, because I know the guy is capable. We saw him like drill a 65-yard punt earlier this year. I know the guy is capable. You just want to see consistency. And a lot like how I tell Daniel when he tries to trade my rookies off of NBA 2K, you got to give these young guys an opportunity to become something. And if you don't, then you'll constantly be unhappy and having a revolving door of talent coming in. Right, Daniel?
We don't want to talk about 2K. Yeah, but I mean, I like young guys. I do, and that's why I mean, even going to this is a good segue. Our guy Adrian Cardosa, he said, "Is Joe Mixon a Bengal week 1?" My prediction: I think they should draft the running back regardless.
That's such a political answer.
I do. No,
my prediction is they should draft a running back. No, not answer the question, but tell you what you want to hear or need to hear.
Honestly, I think, like, listen, what I would do is I would for sure draft a running back. There's a lot of good guys. We'll discuss this after the combine, even during the combine. I mean, you got guys like Braylon Allen. You got guys, in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round that I believe. No, honestly, I really do think you can get a guy in the day 2, day 3 that can be a potential 1-2 punch with Chase Brown. But I would also not rule out having Joe Mixon, having Chase Brown, and then having a 5th round rookie in the wings for Joe Mixon after this year. I would not rule that out, right? And we've seen a lot of conversations about Joe Mixon on Twitter. Everyone's talking about, should they cut him? Should they not? I mean, I think what they're going to do, I think they're going to keep him on the team. And for sure, I would 1000% draft the
only thing I'd ask, guys, for Bengals fans, because I feel like we're a pretty tight-knit community, a tight-knit group. If you're having this discourse about Joe Mixon, obviously the players see it. Just don't tag him. Okay, just don't tag him, right? Because that stuff can truly take a toll on people. We never know what a person's dealing with, because one thing I will say, obviously he's had off the field stuff, yada yada, all that good stuff, but he has also always spoken about his love for the city and the community. And I've been fortunate enough to go to his camp that he does for people every single year, and he has never turned down a question to ask and stuff like that. So I would just say, let's just not tag him and stuff. Let's just try to be mindful of that, because these players are humans as well.
And they see this.
Yeah.
And it definitely could change.
Yeah.
You never want a player to get tired of the city. You never want the player to get tired of the fans. We had a question from Ben Amber said, y'all should see this mock offseason I cooked up. If you want, man, you can post it to Twitter and just tag us. We always love seeing what you guys have got.
Always.
Bryce Ashley said, T for Brian Burns. Just got in here. Unsure if you guys spoke about this.
Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. Because you put me you're doing some things to me. I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, I don't know how real.
I won't answer that question. I'm going to be a politician. I appreciate, in the words of Barack Obama, I appreciate both players. I like Brian Burns and I love T. Higgins. That's what I'll say.
I don't know how realistic it is, but having Brian Burns on the Bengals, not having to worry about the money or anything, just purely on the field, him and Trey Hendrickson.
Don't do that,
man.
Don't
Yeah,
do that.
I would love that. Nick Fote said, "What? What's so funny?
Man, he's on it tonight.
What?
No, I love it. Keep going.
No. I mean, we can talk about Brian Burns more if you want.
I'd rather not, because to me that puts me in a weird spot, because I love Brian Burns. I think he's a great player.
I think he's a damn good player too.
Yeah.
And having him with Trey Henderson, this pass rush, you need a pass rush. And like the more we're talking about, obviously he would get paid 25, 26, 27. He'd be getting paid a hefty price, but that's what you got to pay. It's for a pass rush now.
You know who I love? There's a guy, Myles Murphy. Let's talk about Myles Murphy and his potential. I think Myles Murphy can be a great player. Excited to see him continue to grow, and hopefully we can get some people to actually progress in the pass rush department on a consistent basis, especially with some people hint being in a contract year.
Yeah, and Matt Brewer said, when are we going to address Sam Hubbard and his deal? He should be going through the same type of offseason that Mixon did last year due to a lack of production. But it's like looking at the same thing, right? You got Trey Hendrickson on one side. You have Myles Murphy, who's your first round pick, on the other side. Sam Hubbard was a damn good run defender last year, and he was dealing with a lot of injuries. So when you look at this, if you can't get a superstar like a Brian Burns, if you can't get a star at the edge rush position, the smart move is to keep Sam Hubbard on the team, because what else are you going to do? Like, would I rather rely on a guy making $8 million, $9 million a year, or would I rather rely on Sam Hubbard to stay consistent at the run game and put in Myles Murphy and maybe put in a draft pick at the edge rusher? So I would look at these dominant edge rushers, but if you can't, Sam Hubbard on the team isn't the worst thing, and obviously he's making a lot.
You know, I'm laughing because somebody says, Mike Ruffin says, nice redirect, Malik. No lie, guys. Some of the places we frequent at times, we've seen Bengals players there.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, it was beginning of the season. I gave a passionate rant about how Zach Carter needed to step up. Eating a steak dinner. I look to my right. Guess who's staring directly at me? Zach Carter. And he nods, and I nod. Obviously, didn't want to interrupt his dinner that he was having. You know, I was just like, you know what, man? He knew who I was, obviously. I know who he is, obviously. He's like big ass dude, right? I was like, going for, I'm gonna just relax a little bit. I'm gonna just relax a little bit, because these players do have feelings as well. So,
and yeah, I think
sorry for going off on a tangent.
No, you're good. They definitely have feelings, and like, we'll obviously be real, but yeah, guys like Zach Carter, BJ Hill, Josh Chupo.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I was like, going for it. Yeah. Could you imagine if that guy would have just walked up to me and smacked the shit out of me? Like, I heard what you were saying about me.
And no, they see this stuff. Yeah. They do.
They 100% they do. 100% they do, man. I mean, you know, like, anyway, but but that doesn't mean I won't ever speak facts. I'm still going to speak facts, right? But I just respect, man. Respect. I got respect. I don't want people thinking I don't respect them. I'm passionate about what I speak about, man, and I do believe that people can step up their game a little bit. But some people are asking questions about something about Joe, what Joe's saying. So we can get to those.
We got Kenya. We got some other people saying Goodberry seems like he's trying his hardest to push this agenda about trading T. Higgins. I don't get it. And we got Salvat. He said Goodberry's smart. Trading T is smart. There's nothing more to it than that.
So I'll say this. You guys know me and Joe are very close. Joe is, again, our type of coverage of the Bengals is drastically different. And I think our media coverage is drastically different from anything that Cincinnati has seen before. So our job is not to, necessarily talk about the roses, the peaches, and all that kind of stuff like that. Joe is very analytical. He's very, very systematic, I would say, when it comes to his breakdowns. And his reasoning makes a lot of sense, right? It's the money that's being allocated to. It's the financial impact that he's referring to. It has nothing to do with the player. It's the financial impact and what if the deal doesn't get done, so on and so forth. That's where he's coming from. When I speak about it, I speak more from a standpoint of what's logical, but more so what the team is probably going to do, which is why I've maintained the Bengals are going to franchise tag Higgins. And I remember I gave my opinion of what I would do, and I had a lot of people up in arms. So it's gonna be different, right? You're gonna get Joe's opinion about it, who is coming about it from a financial aspect. We don't have ties to the players necessarily, which is why when I do get, and this is me being personal with you guys, when I get offered to come hang with players after games, stuff like that, I don't really want to do that because there's gonna come a point in time where said favorite player, the team is going to have to move off of. And I can't allow my personal relationship with said player impact my opinion of, what the team should do and what makes sense from the team long term. So I think it's important to realize that. I think people sometimes think that I might be biased towards players, but I genuinely, I think the only player I sort of have a relationship with, that has just grown over years in Cincinnati has been Joe Mixon, honestly. And that's just become because, and I had a relationship with AJ Green as well, but that comes from covering camps and doing so on and so forth. But then I was like, hey, I don't want to be that type of media because I don't want to die on the wrong hill, because there is going to come a point in time where your play is going to fall off, right? There's going to come a point in time where you're not going to be playing at the same level as you once were. And that goes for everybody on the roster, Joe Burrow included. There's going to come a day where the Bengals will draft a new quarterback. So you kind of want to be able to separate yourself from that.
Yeah. And just adding on to that, like seeing all the discourse about these guys, number one, like we've discussed, and I think one of the main focal points, kind of like the State of the Jungle show that we've really dived into, is the fact that giving you guys an explanation of not, only what we would do and not only what's logical, but what the Bengals actually are most likely to do. And that's the discourse with Sam Hubbard and Joe Mixon, I believe. That's what a lot of people are missing. And I feel like I just see all the, oh, here's what you should do.
Both can be true.
Yes.
The fact of the matter is, you knew what let's be real, guys, for a second. Let's have a real conversation, because that's what we do on this damn show, right? It's no secret. You knew what you were getting when you drafted Sam Hubbard. You were getting a very good run defender, a guy that you hoped had upside in the pass rush department. You believed could be maybe a 7-sack, 8-sack guy a year. Probably never going to break out into being this elite pass rush. He's had some good seasons under Cincinnati, but we can't be shocked that his game has never really developed beyond there. He's become like this guy with a bunch of pass rush moves. So you knew who you had when you drafted him. You also knew what you had when you signed him to an extension. So you knew what you were paying for, is my input. You're getting an elite run defender, a guy that's dealt with nicks, bruises, and injuries this year, played through a lot of stuff, expected to be healthy this year. Guess what? We'll see what happens. I think that you knew what you were having when you knew what you were having when you knew what you were doing when you gave Sam Hubbard the extension.
And just to put it simply, like with Sam Hubbard, his game is very simple. And when you look at the critique of Sam Hubbard, from what I saw, it's simple. It's the pass rush. It's him getting outrun by quarterbacks. And we've said this time and time again, that has to change. As much as you love Sam Hubbard, as much as I love Sam Hubbard, those are the critical plays, I promise you guys, in the playoffs, against the Chiefs, against Patrick Mahomes, against Josh Allen, against, Jalen Hurts, if you make it to the Super Bowl. There's going to be a time where the quarterback's rolling out the other way, and is Sam Hubbard the guy that you want on third down there? No.
So let me just say this, guys. We got 121 people watching, I believe, and we might have some more. And guys, we only have 28 likes. Please, if you guys could do me a favor, I'm going to put on my puppy dog face. If you guys could do me a favor, you guys give this video a like. That's all we ask. We don't ask for super chats. We don't ask for none of that. Ask for you guys give this video a like. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the YouTube channel for all of our coverage of Bengals and beyond. So if you guys could do us a favor and just give this video a like, let's get this like up. See if we can get to 100. Appreciate that.
And Kenya said, Hubbard making a lot of money, and we crucified Mixon last year for playing poorly. I just don't know if that's like the mindset to go about, like, hey, because we crucified this guy last year means we have to crucify him this year. You have to look at these guys and they're playing a vacuum. Running back and edge rusher is different. And I understand Sam Hubbard is making a lot of money and probably should restructure, but we can't, like, the comparing the two situations. I get it, but yeah, Hubbard is a run defender and had zero help playing on one side of the line. They need to get help in the pass rush, and Miles Murphy will be that. And hopefully they make a big splash at defensive line.
I saw Miles Murphy show a lot of flashes this year, man. You got to be excited about him because he did show that ability to generate pass rush, and that's what you want.
And that's where like my concern and my like I find it very hard to believe that they're going to go out and get a dominant edge rusher, or they're going to draft an edge rusher in round 1, even if one falls to them because of Miles Murphy. And I think that's not a bad thing. I think there's other talent on the table. I would rather go after a guy like Christian Wilkins on the interior defensive line other than a Brian Burns, because it helps the interior defensive line and allows Miles Murphy to give him a shot and doesn't feel like he has to, play from behind. So,
and I just want to get to this thing. In times, I love what he's saying in here. He says, basically saying Sam Hubbard's job is to rush the pass rusher. So I think we kind of get caught up in a lot of numbers sometimes. There's more to it than just, hey, rushing the pass rusher, and let's make sure your sack number's up. Sometimes there's a big part that a lot of edge rushers in the league don't do well, and it might shock you. It's called setting the edge, meaning they're able to force run plays to a different way, or maybe they're able to just impact the play in different kinds of way. Maybe you're able to move the line. So I think Sam Hubbard does that really, really well. He did not do that great this year, but I think that was because he was playing through some stuff. You do want to have your edge rusher out there be able to have the upside to rush the pass rusher, and you're hoping that his pass rush repertoire kind of improves. You don't necessarily get that from Sam Hubbard, but I still think Sam Hubbard is a high effort guy and a guy that you definitely need, because there are some guys who are high effort guys in the National Football League who do have high sack productions, but maybe they're not good at stopping the run. I have no idea, but I know Trey Hendrickson, if you put them in a vacuum, right? It's funny that you did that commercial with Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson. He's like, whatever he does well, I don't do well. Whatever I do well, he doesn't do well. And I think kind of, I think that's real. So
yeah, and it is true. And when you look at like Sam Hubbard, if I were to make a prediction, I think he'll stay on the roster, and I just think they bulk up the edge rush position. And
Sam's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and same thing. I find it very hard to believe that Joe Mixon won't be on the roster this year. But we got some questions. Shino said we need to bulk up the offensive line and defensive line, get a good tight end, and draft another running back. I would like some linebackers that can tackle in 2024. Basically laid out the entire offseason plan right there. I mean, that's the hope heading into offseason. Like even last year, right, was heading into the offseason. We had our goals, and the Bengals hit some of the goals. The tight end position wasn't one of them. They didn't make a big splash. They didn't make a big splash in the first round of the draft. But this is the fun of it, right? Even heading into this year's draft, right? We're all saying, okay, they should go after defensive line. They should go after a right tackle. Who's to say they don't, right? We talked about Jackson Powers-Johnson. Who's to say they don't get an interior offensive lineman? It's not the biggest position of need, but this is the fun part of the offseason where we get to see what this front office cooks up, and we get to see if they made the right moves or not, and if they put the best possible product on the field. Landon Van Steen said, thoughts on Bengals getting the new field turf and the brand new locker room. First off, I just love the fact that they're putting money into this team, especially the locker room. It is kind of, it's not a necessity, but damn it. I know it's going to look good. Any thoughts on the Bengals getting turf or the new turf?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. We got Nick Fox saying Noah Fant banged that table, Malik. Matt Brewer said Fant, Everett, Hudson, a rookie tight end starting week 1. I think you know where Malik is on that. Noah Fant. And the only rookie tight end that I would be comfortable starting is a Brock Bowers if they get him in round 1.
Man, I'm not trying to hear none of that Brock Bowers stuff. I'm just being honest with you.
Really?
No.
Why?
No. It's gonna be options out there, man. Like it's gonna be other options in free agency that you can. I just feel like you're gonna get it. It's gonna be some premier talent, especially on the defensive line, maybe even the offensive line side of things. I pray that NFL teams are stupid enough to draft J.C. Latham over my man Joe Wall. I pray teams are stupid enough to do that. Trust me, coming from Alabama's a Crimson Tide fan, dude is. I'll leave it. I'll leave that for a film breakdown.
Yeah. And I think the Brock Bowers discourse changes drastically after free agency. And that's what we'll see. I hope. I mean, free agency is what, 14th of March. So we'll see. We'll see. And I hope they go out there and make a big move for a tight end. Landon Van Steen said, do you guys think we cut Nick Scott? I don't know how much he's making. I believe it was like $5-6 million.
I'd be shocked if brother was on the team.
Yep. You said it. Sam Patterson said Bowers will not get past the Chargers. Yeah, I agree. I don't think Bowers will fall to 18. I think his talent, somebody will swoop up and get him. Davin Gabe said cap increase really helps with T.
No,
Uh, yeah. I mean,
it was what it was, but regardless, it is,
yeah, they were gonna give him the franchise tag regardless. He said, bring in Patrick Queen. We need gritty linebackers to complement Wilson and Pratt. The only hard part about that is you're already paying Wilson and Pratt decent amount of money, and you're paying Queen for what? He would be the backup linebacker.
I'll tell you right now, there's only one linebacker that kind of gets me jittery,
Yeah.
like and excited. Y'all not trying to hear this, but Devin White. That's the only guy that kind of gets me excited because I think he's been used incorrectly. And I think that, like, yeah, I just think Devin White's a good player. And I hope that the linebacking market has hit a lull again, right? And I hope that some of these guys are able to come to teams on a cheaper deal.
Yeah, and I just think when you look at him, I think he's good. And just once again, it depends on the money, and I think that's what a lot of free agency is. We'll see if he doesn't, get a big offer right away. I mean, potentially.
Let me be clear about this because I had some people make tweets saying I said, "Sir, that's what I would like."
Yeah,
Bengals ain't tell me nothing. I don't know anything about Devin White. I just am a fan of Devin White, and I wanted him back coming out of LSU.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean he was productive. I think he's been in a rough spot, and we'll see what the money is. Honey Dollar said, "What's keeping Burrow and Chase?"
I love the name.
Yeah, he said, "What's keeping Burrow and Chase from being Ryan and Jones Falcons team?" I think he means just having one dominant wide receiver and one quarterback. I don't know if that's the right comp for that, just because like it's definitely, this is gonna sound crazy, but we've talked about this. It's definitely more of like a Tom Brady-esque where you would fill out the other positions with low-level guys like a Trent Irwin. And Joe Burrow can do that, right? We've just seen him do it without Jamar Chase. We've seen him do it without T. Higgins. He's the type of quarterback that can do that. He's the type of quarterback that can elevate the wide receivers around him. And I wouldn't be surprised in 4, 5, 6 years, 7 years, if we're having that discussion, because then you're going to have Jamar Chase on the payroll. And I think that's when we're really going to figure it out. But right now, the organization understands, hey, they can do that, but let's go all in, put our chips on the table for this year and for the next couple of years to really go out, just go win a Super Bowl. Then you can figure out dynasty. Then you can figure out multiple Super Bowls. Let's just go win one. We got.
I'm loving y'all questions right now. Y'all, it's the best fan base in the world, man.
No, definitely. And even just seeing the passion on social media, it is fun. Like I'll just be scrolling on social media, seeing all the questions. And I know definitely even during the NFL Combine, you guys are gonna be reaching out, and even on the shows, just going crazy. So we appreciate it. Sheena Bemonti said, Bowers is good, but too short. Rather have someone taller because I want that mismatch in the end zone and parts of the field if Chase and Higgins are covered as well. Yeah. It definitely, like, the height hurts Brock Bowers, but regardless, he's still an elite talent. Free agency is going to be the way to go for the Bengals tight end. Davin Gabe said, Tommy Town said, please, no explanation needed. Yeah, we discussed this. I mean, he's a free agent, so it's always possible. Matt Brewer said, Matabuke or Jones needs to be next to Hendrickson next year, if we're being honest. Only issue with Chris Jones is he's going to cost a lot.
No, I'm good on Chris Jones. He's starting, the injuries, the nicks are starting to happen. The knee injuries starting to bother him a little bit.
And dude's getting older. He's getting older. What, you signed him to a 3-year deal? You want a dominant pass rusher who's going to be there for the next 3-4 years. That's what you got with Trey Hendrickson. When you sign Hendrickson to his deal, you're getting a guy who's about to break out and still had a lot of question marks around him. There was a lot of people saying Trey Hendrickson wasn't a star edge rusher. And I feel like, if anything, that's the route that the Bengals would go, is getting somebody that's not past their prime, getting somebody that's about to enter their 26, 27, 28 years. Honey Dollar said, I believe Noah Fant will open up defenses. I agree. Jawan Sylvan said, McCall Hardman, our new slot receiver. McCall Hardman also isn't like,
he's not going anywhere, man. He's staying with the Kansas City Chiefs for life.
Yeah. And he's also not like, he's not a great wide receiver, and he wasn't great for the Chiefs. So he just fit their system and had a huge play to win the Super Bowl. But remember, he was on the Jets earlier this year. So it's almost like a system wide receiver to where the Chiefs loved him and knew that they could fit him in, and especially without Kadarius Toney. So,
This is interesting. Somebody said, "Do you think the Bengals would have interest in Xavier and Howard?" I'll say this: interest, maybe. Will they sign him? I don't know. I don't know if I see that, but I'll tell you this: Lou Anarumo is single-handedly the reason why he was drafted by the Miami Dolphins. He pounded the table. He was the first person to really stick his claws in and tell the Dolphins that this is a guy that we need to draft. And obviously, it's a shame he wasn't able to, stay in Miami and see, or not. Was it a shame? And see sort of the fruits of his labor, if you will. But yeah, one thing about Lou, man, he finds those defensive backs, man. He finds those defensive backs. Somebody also asked, I think it was my guy Chasten Scott. Shout out Chasten, man. Appreciate you always being here. But he says, what combo would you guys take? Matabuke and Tier Tart or Wilkinson Kinlaw? I think that's easy. Wilkinson Kinlaw. Yeah. I think that's just you talk about you get a formidable player already, a very damn good interior defensive lineman in Christian Wilkinson. You get a guy that has potentially to be a very good defensive lineman. The problem with that is I think that Javon Kinlaw started to round into form towards the end of the season and he looked good. So
yeah, I'm with you. I think, and what does it for me is definitely I like Kinlaw over Tart just because he's still young and he's still got a lot of potential. So, respectfully, if we get one of those four, give me one of those four. Honestly, like that people underestimate what just getting.
I think people forget BJ Hill played really well this year too, man.
Yeah,
he played really well. I just don't know if anybody's coming in and taking over BJ Hill's spot necessarily in the rotation or on this defensive line right now.
And that's the hard part about these conversations, because when you look at guys like Jerzon Newton, like Byron Murphy, when you look at these guys in the draft, they do play BJ Hill's position. Like Jerzon Newton is a bigger guy, but he's not DJ Reader. DJ Reader is a big dude. DJ Reader walks around 320, 330, 6'4", I believe. These guys play the 3-tech position, so they're rushing the passer, and that's what it's going to be interesting to discuss because they are playing BJ Hill's position. And I remember we had this discussion. I didn't really fully understand the difference, of these full defensive line, where these guys playing. But the 3-tech's main position and their main job is to rush the passer. That's why BJ Hill, you see him making the big time plays most of the time in the passing game. DJ Reader goes under the radar because that's not his job. His job is to take on double teams. His job is just to be a big body. So it's going to be
tackle, man.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where they go. I hope they go get a guy in free agency. But just add on real quick, Xavier Howard I think would be interesting. Depends on the money, but would definitely be interesting. Landon Van Steen said, Malik, just wondering what makes you a Bengals, Celtics, and Bama fan?
All right, let's go. Story time. Growing up, I used to play the game NCAA, obviously. I'm from Jersey. Rutgers sucked. I went to a Rutgers game. Didn't really like it. Obviously, always will still want Rutgers to do well. It's cool to see them do well. It's good to see Mungai. I knew his older brother. It's good to see him play well. I just couldn't get with Rutgers personally. I remember some of the early years of me watching Bama. I just kind of fell in love with it. A.J. McCarron was my guy at the University of Alabama. So you guys could imagine how excited I was when he became a Bengal. Became an Alabama Crimson Tide fan. Rooted for them. Still haven't yet to see them live and in person. So you might call me a bandwagon at this point. I don't know. But this is long before the Hurts days, long before the Tua days, all that kind of stuff like that. Just really, really appreciated Nick Saban and the way he went about his process. So became an Alabama Crimson Tide fan. I grew up a New Jersey Nets fan when Jay-Z and that whole brass took the Nets to Brooklyn. It broke my heart. Hated basketball for quite some time. Was the biggest LeBron hater, but a lot like Brady, over time you started to appreciate the greatness and you were able to put your bias aside and really appreciate the athlete that he was. So I really kind of started watching Bron more and more and more. And then, it came time I was like, man, I got to pick a team. So I wasn't going to follow Bron to the Lakers. So I said, hey, I always liked the Boston Celtics growing up. That was another team that I appreciated back when I was a New Jersey Nets fan. And I kind of went with them because I do think over time, even though the Celtics are one of the most popular team in the association, I feel like They kind of do fall, sometimes fly under the radar, and teams don't expect them to finally break through. So I started rooting for the Boston Celtics fan. And as for the Bengals, I hated the New York Jets, hated the New York Giants. They played in our state, never gave us any credit. When they won championships, there was no parade in New Jersey. There was no way of saying, hey, thank New Jersey taxpayers for paying for MetLife Stadium. But there was, hey, let's celebrate New York. And to me, I feel like New York only has one true team, and that is the Buffalo Bills. Am I missing another team? No, just the Buffalo Bills, right?
Yeah.
So I thought it was kind of weird that happened. So I said, you know what? I like Tigers growing up. I liked TJ Hushmanzada. Loved, I used to always play with the Bengals on Madden. So I picked the Cincinnati Bengals. I got bullied profusely being a Bengals fan growing up because I grew up in Jets and Giants country. So those 2 years where the Jets used to kick our asses, I got a lot of flack for that. But I became a huge Bengals fan because of that. And I'm sorry, Vicinso, if you don't like me talking and giving people a long explanation as to how a guy from New Jersey became a Bengals, Celtics, and Bama fan, you can leave, brother. But appreciate you asking the question.
Yeah. We got some more questions real quick. One question from Quinn Kidwell. He said, with all the staff changes,
Quinn, my guy.
That's our guy.
That's Quinn, yeah.
What's going on? He said, with all the staff changes this past season, what team do you think is going to have the best turnaround?
Which team?
Yeah, with all the
Chargers.
Yeah,
the Chargers.
I like the Chargers. I also like the Falcons. I think the Falcons. Hold on. You can't pass judgment like that. It depends on what they do with the quarterback position, but getting Zach Robinson, getting Raheem Morris, the weapons that they have on the offense were not utilized well by Arthur Smith. And man, I think they're in an easy division. There's no reason why they can't be in the playoffs this year. No reason. So we'll see what they do at quarterback, but they've got a lot of talent.
Bro has been waffling about the Falcons since last year.
But they give me a reason why they can't do well.
Who's their quarterback?
Exactly.
Who's their quarterback?
I mean, doesn't matter yet.
Can't. I think we're past the phase of if I say something about what's his name? What's the dude's name?
Desmond Ridder.
I feel like Cincinnati fans won't hate me. He sucks.
Yeah, he may suck, but they can make the playoffs.
He sucks. Not with him.
Probably not with him, but we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks on the market. Justin Fields, probably.
Bro, it needs to happen.
Yeah. And if you get Justin Fields with those weapons in Atlanta, first year.
I don't know if I see that, but
we'll see. But we got once again, if you guys have any questions, drop them down below.
We can wrap it up. I feel like we've been live for a while.
Yeah, we've been live for an hour.
Hey man, I appreciate you guys on Friday. We got 128 people in here. Man, I appreciate you guys spending your Friday nights with us, man. Looking at my ugly face, man. I appreciate it, man. It makes me happy. I bounced on going to the gym to speak with you guys. We got 135 people now here, so I feel like I kind of gotta stay. But I feel like I kind of gotta stay now. I kind of bounced on going to the gym today for this. So
there's still time left.
Let's keep going. What's up? Nah, not for me. I went to the gym yesterday at 2:30 a.m.
You did.
2:30 a.m. So I'm committed. Yeah. Promise to go every single day for a month. Let's keep it going. They said keep going.
All right.
What will LeBron say? I got two more for you.
I got two more for you.
I got two more for you.
We got Ben. He said, "Yeah, we'll get to you." I think he sent us his mock off season. We'll get to that after. Curious to see that we got some questions from Keith Brewer. He said, "If the Bengals sign Trent Brown, how much stronger are Bengals line having Jackson Powers Johnson at left guard for a year?" Trent Brown would be I discussed this, but he's fine. And when you look at the other options, I mean, you got a Jonah Williams who you're gonna pay 20-something million for, or Trent Brown or Jermaine Illuminor, or these guys, Michael Wenyu. These aren't the best of the crop, but at the end of the day, you're looking at offensive linemen. You already have your star offensive lineman, your left tackle. I think the best bet, Trent Brown wouldn't be terrible. It's fine, right? And that's what you're not expecting to be able to pay all these guys. So I would strongly advise. I like Jackson Powers Johnson a lot. But,
I like him too.
Trent Brown. CJD 22K said, even if we sign a veteran tight end like Henry or Fant, would you also be down to draft Brock Bowers if he falls? I don't think so. Man, that would be crazy. Noah Fant and Brock Bowers on the same team.
I mean, just who else will be on the board, right? I mean, I feel like I feel like you can't leave free agency without a tight end, and you want a veteran player at this point in that spot. But I feel like this is the best spot to get it because you kind of get a veteran player. You get some. There's gonna have veteran options who are still young, right? Noah Fant, what 27?
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like he's younger. I'll look it up.
Marissa, the producer. Let's see. How old is Noah Fant?
Regardless, he
Yeah.
is going to be.
I know.
Buy low.
Yeah.
Buy low
and
and
Gesicki's age too. That's my backup option. 26. So Noah Fant's 26 years old. So you got a 26-year-old tight end who's had terrible quarterback play his entire career.
Yeah. I'm with it. And regardless, tight end, Noah Fant, Mike Gesicki, don't leave free agency without a tight end.
Yep.
We got a couple questions. Wettish said, his name's Westish.
Oh.
Westish said, I work tomorrow. Are we for real this time? I'm not quite sure what he's asking. Ben Amherst said, also thank you guys for getting me through my exams. Legitimately look forward to the show so I can take a break for studying. We appreciate it. Studying's not the greatest. And if you can have something to get you through, you like listening to podcasts when you work out, don't you, Mike?
I do. I've got an obsession with Michael Francis.
Yeah.
Sammy the Bull and the whole 5 families in New York and all that kind of stuff like that. So I watch a lot of podcasts and stuff like that about that. But.
Yeah. We got a couple questions. Apparently some Ravens fans are in here. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Malik, are you a New Jersey Devils fan?
Yes, I'm a Devils fan. I root for the Devils, but I won't say I'm like a huge Devils guy.
Yeah. Woke Mike said, favorite running back in the draft. Do you have a favorite running back yet?
Not yet.
I have some. Stay tuned. Stay tuned to our combine coverage. I'm excited for this. We got Matt Brewer said no Drew Lock discourse. I mean, when you look at it, Noah Fant has not had great quarterbacks. Joe Burrow would be the best quarterback he's played with.
Well, what is he saying?
I think he's laughing. He he doesn't want to talk about Drew Lock. We were talking about Noah Fant.
You guys want to talk about a guy that I whiffed on, man, and I thought he was going to be good.
But it's where you land to. Like that's what we discussed. Like I truly believe. I think Drew Lock could have been something.
I agree,
and
I think he got a bad. I think he definitely landed in a bad spot.
And he had his chances too, but he had the aura. That's for sure.
That's the biggest thing you want from some of these players, man. You want them to have confidence, and I thought Drew Lock had that. He had the moxie, he had the confidence, and just couldn't put it all together. I think the special ones can kind of put it all together or find a way to put it all together, and you were just waiting for that for Drew, and you never got there. So he had a lot of games where he showed potential, though.
Yeah, he did. He showed potential, that's for sure. Even this year, I mean, a couple times. But Nick Fote said, thoughts on DJ Reader coming back this year in free agency?
I'd be okay with that. I just think it's going to be challenging, right? Because you're gonna ask yourself, what is he going to command? What are the offers going to be? I think DJ made himself a lot of money. In Cincinnati the last couple of years.
Yeah. At first I wasn't a huge fan of it because of the injuries and because of the age. I'm not opposed to it. Just because when you look at it, it's consistency. Hopefully, he returns back healthy, but it's consistency, and you can go develop a guy to replace the BJ Hill spot. You can also look to develop edge rushers. So I wouldn't be opposed to it because you got another year of Trey Henderson. And I wouldn't put a percentage on it. I don't know what's the likelihood of it, but I've got a strong feeling. I feel like the Bengals want DJ Reader back, but it depends on the money. Keith Brewer said, how about Joe Mixon, Chase Brown, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire together? I don't think we need a fourth running back. What do you think about Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
No.
Yeah, he's fine. He doesn't provide, when people are having this Joe Mixon discourse too, when you discuss not having Joe Mixon on the team, but bringing Ezekiel Elliott in, what does that do? In my opinion, production, sure, Zeke could give similar production, but at the end of the day, is that worth it? In my opinion, no. And when you look at the running backs in free agency, they're not great. They're fine. They're good. AJ Dillon could be good. But in my opinion, we got Woke Mike said, would you guys rather have a scat back or a power back?
Scat back for sure.
Yeah, it depends on how Chase Brown develops. and depends on what they do with Joe Mixon. I think they could go either one. Depends on what they do with Joe Mixon. Um, we got a question. Terry said Joe Burrow's overrated. Yeah, he's definitely a Ravens fan, it seems. Davin Gabe said Jatavian Sanders, thoughts on day 2. Once again, the tight end position is whatever it is. Jatavian Sanders would be great if you go out and get a guy in free agency like Gesicki. Matt Brewer said, Jalen Wright, speak it into existence. Once again, we'll talk about the running backs after the combine. I'm not a huge fan of Jalen Wright just because he gives you the same thing Chase Brown kind of does. So, yeah.
All right. Well, we stay for a little bit longer. Right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into impromptu episode of Sit Down with Malik Wright as we break down Bengals informing T. Higgins, reportedly by Ian Rappaport, of franchise tagging T. Higgins. So we appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys give this video a like. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. We appreciate you. We have nonstop coverage from UFC, NBA, a whole bunch of other stuff. You want to hear my opinion on other sports, other teams? That's all on this channel. We appreciate you guys. Until next time, Who Dey?